Got a question for my left-leaning friends, my liberal friends, my Democratic friends. Have y'all given up on South Carolina? I know that years ago, when I first moved to the great state of South Carolina, a Republican was about as rare an item as a dodo bird. Now, you wouldn't believe that looking at who's in Columbia, but it was the case. And now it's the Democrats who are the rare species. But it almost feels like they're rare because they're not even trying. Here's what I'm talking about. In a few months, we're going to have an election, and a pretty significant election for the state of South Carolina. We'll be voting on our governor, lieutenant governor, state superintendent of education, many other state offices, as well as both U.S. Senate seats. Lindsey Graham, of course, this is his normal time to be up for re-election. We are having a special election because Tim Scott filled in the incompleted session for term of Senator Jim DeMint. And so now he is, the election for that seat is up again. What I'm not seeing is a whole lot of energy on the Democratic side. Now, my right-leaning friends, I know what you're going to say. Well, they know better. They know this is a Republican state. They should just quit. And maybe that's true. Although I like the exchange of idea, I believe that there are people from all different viewpoints that could have a say in what goes on in our state. But let's just look. We've got the governor's race, which of course there will be no primary for the Republican side because there's the governor. But there doesn't appear to be a primary going to be needed on the Democratic side because it appears that Vincent Shaheen is the only one running. Good choice, bad choice, I don't know. There does seem to be a couple people looking at the lieutenant governor's race. Well, that's a couple people on the Republican side. There's one that I could see on the Democratic side, Bakari Sellers. Well, then there's state superintendent of education. There are 8. You hear me? Count those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Little school here. Republicans vying for the state superintendent of education seat. How many Democrats are there? Well, there were 2. Minus 1 who just stepped down. That leaves us 1 Democrat looking for the House of the State Superintendent of Education. Well, maybe on the national level, when we're looking at the Senate seats. I mean, Lindsey Graham's seat is a hot contest. There are 4 currently announced challengers to his seat from the right. Nancy Mace, Richard Cash, Bill Connor, and Lee Bright. There was a guy on the Democratic side that I think Elvin Green, remember him, would have an easier time of being elected. At least people thought maybe they were voting for the singer Al Green. This guy doesn't have a hope. Tim Scott, this is a new guy. You might say, well, Lindsey Graham has a big track record and he might be hard to beat. Although with the current discontent of his right side, a Democrat might be able to give him some challenge on the other side and might actually take him down. Who knows? But what about Tim Scott? He doesn't have a long-term time in Washington. He's as a senator. There is one Democratic choice against him. Democrats, are you just giving up? Are you saying there's no hope? Because I know there are people out there who are Democrats who would like to see some options. I don't care about party. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. I want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and what's the motivation behind that. You can put whatever label you want on you, but I want to know what you're going to do. But I just think Democrats have just turned over and said, we can't do anything. And if you're a Democrat watching this, you need to be screaming at the top of your lungs that there needs to be challenges to these for these seats. These are important seats. And an exchange of ideas, a challenging of the viewpoints of the people of this state. Because I'm sorry, while we are largely governed by Republicans and conservative to almost conservative points of view, That's not necessarily the viewpoint of everyone in the state of South Carolina. So if you're a Democrat, you need to be screaming at your party leaders, because there are some solid, effective Democrats in our state who could challenge for these seats. Win or lose, they could challenge. So this is a wake-up call to the Democratic Party. Hey, there's something to be won here. Now, obviously, that's going to be a wake-up call to the Republicans. I'm not going to let a Democrat get a seat. And that's good. A good, healthy exchange of ideas. That's what I'd like to see in the election. I'd like to see, for every office that's up for election this time in November, I'd like to see, in the primaries in June, I'd like to see 3, 4, 5 choices for every office for both parties. And then when it comes time for the general election, I'd like to see 3 or 4 choices, because not just Democrat, Republican, but Green, Constitution, no name, whatever. But folks, it's you and I that make this happen, that demand that things be done. So take a time and say, let's have a contest. All right. Our podcasts for Another Voice with Eric and Friends are on Mondays normally. You can pick them up at canigetawordin.com. You can also go to Facebook at Another Voice with Eric and Friends and find us there, comment for us. YouTube at Be Another Voice, as well as Twitter at Be Another Voice, are ways you can get in touch with us. We want to remind you of the St. Baldrick's Day Foundation fundraiser on March 16th. That is to fund research in the fight against childhood cancer. You can't find a better cause than that. And I and Jonathan are going to get our heads shaved in solidarity with the kids and as a way to encourage you to raise funds. So we'll put a place you can, they'll put the address where you can click, you can put and donate for our team. And you could also find it on our website and our Facebook page. So until we meet again, get out in your community and make a difference.